have followed quite a few wild boar control teams in the southern United States, but rarely has my heart pounded the way it did that night. That evening, we set traps at the edge of the forest with only one goal: to keep the community and the crops safe. The image that remains deeply etched in my mind, even now, is this: a herd of wild boars circling frantically inside the steel trap frame. The sounds of heavy impacts echoing again and again through the dark forest. The net trembling under the instinctive force of wild animals pushing against it. And it all started from something very real. For many nights in a row, the farmers' fields had been torn up so badly that they could no longer sleep peacefully. That afternoon, the team split into 3 groups. Our group chose an open patch of ground along a trail, the path where the herd usually moves from the forest down into the fields. The damp soil still held deep hoof marks. Their tracks were still very fresh. We decided to use a large circular steel net trap designed to capture the entire herd. These traps were made of hardened, rust-resistant steel, strong enough to withstand the powerful charges of wild boars weighing up to 1,000 pounds. At this point, you might be wondering why we chose this type of trap instead of others, right? The villagers had already tried several different methods, but they were ineffective, only catching 1 or 2 animals. After that, the herd only became more cautious. That was when we realized we needed a stronger and more reliable steel trap to deal with the herd. The trap system began to take shape. Steel stakes as thick as a wrist were driven deep into the ground. Heavy rolls of wire mesh were pulled out, the tight pattern woven thick and rigid like armor. Ethan and I held the net straight and tight against the ground while Mark used a sledgehammer to secure every anchor point. The sharp clang of metal striking metal echoed dryly through the forest. Every joint had to be absolutely secure. Just one small gap, and a full-grown wild boar weighing over 300 pounds could destroy the entire system. Inside the circle of netting, we placed bait, fermented corn, and molasses. The scent drifted through the humid air, drawing the herd from far away. When the final section of net was secured, the forest fell silent. Around 11 p.m., we sat inside a truck cabin nearly half a kilometer away from the trap, watching through the cameras. At first, the screen showed nothing but pale gray tree trunks. Then the atmosphere suddenly changed. The air seemed to grow heavier. A dark shape slowly stepped into view. My heart skipped. The herd of wild boars was approaching the trap with great caution. They emerged from the forest edge like heavy shadows, their snouts close to the ground as they sniffed the air. "Wow, that's a lot," Ethan whispered. "Not just a few. More than 20 animals slowly moved toward the bait area." I held my breath. One step forward, then the entire herd followed. We watched in silence, holding our breath as Mark pressed the trigger button. In an instant, the steel net dropped from behind, sealing the circle. A deep, muffled roar erupted. The herd startled. They had lost their caution and fallen straight into the trap. Then everything exploded. The ground was torn apart. The steel net shook violently. Massive bodies slammed into the mesh and panic. Chaos echoed through the forest. Piercing squeals, harsh metallic crashes, and the strained whine of tension amplifies. One large boar charged straight into the edge of the net. The steel bent slightly, then snapped back into place. It refused to give up, leaping against the mesh in an attempt to escape. But the 6-foot-high net gave it no chance. The anchor stakes remained firmly in place. "Hold your positions. Let them tire themselves out," Mark signaled. But before we could even recover from the moment, our radio crackled with shouts from the other 2 groups. "The trap over here just dropped too. not just one location. Every trap our team had set had worked. We approached the trap once the herd had begun to tire. Up close, their size was even more striking. Muscles rippled across their shoulders. Their snouts bore old scars. Their breath steamed in the cold mist. The lead boar still refused to surrender. It circled the enclosure, its large nose sniffing for a weakness. I could feel the tension tightening in my chest. This was not just a hunt. This was a confrontation between humans and the raw survival instincts of the wild. Following local regulations and humane principles, each animal was handled quickly to avoid prolonged suffering. The work was careful and closely coordinated. Gradually, the forest returned to silence. When the sun rose above the tree line, a thin mist lay over the steel nets still damp with the scent of earth. The other teams reported their success one by one. All 3 trap sites had captured entire herds. Villagers came to see. No one cheered loudly, but their eyes shone with relief and quiet joy. At least this season, we can still save what's left, one farmer said. The dogs that had come with them seemed to share in the moment. They ran circles outside the trap, barking loudly as if still pushing the boars into a corner. I looked around, men and women who had spent sleepless nights worrying about their fields. Last night was not just about hunting. It was an act to protect the livelihoods and safety of an entire community. As we packed up the equipment, Ethan suddenly called me over. At the edge of the trail, in the soft soil, another footprint was clearly visible. Bigger, deeper. Mark crouched down and studied it for a long moment. Could be the oldest one in the herd. It never entered the trap. I turned to look toward the dark forest in the distance. The sense of relief slowly gave way to another thought. This fight might not be over yet. There's still wild boars out there, waiting to come back.
No gunshots, no headlights sweeping through the trees, just a phone vibrating quietly in the middle of the night. Close to midnight, a notification comes in from the home security system. Motion detected. Seconds later, the footage reveals a group of wild boars moving into the garden. They advance in a line, calm, methodical, no rush. This isn't the behavior of animals passing through by chance. It's the signature of a herd that knows this ground well. That tells us one thing clearly. This isn't a random visit. It's a well-established route. The real question now becomes, how do you stop the risk without putting people or the neighborhood in danger? Let's take a closer look. No one steps outside. Everything is monitored from inside the house, where decisions are made based on data, not instinct. A smart trap had been set weeks earlier, right along the trail the boars repeatedly used to approach the residential area. This wasn't guesswork. The location was chosen using night camera footage, tracks, and repeated movement patterns. The system combines night vision cameras, motion sensors, and a remotely controlled gate. Most importantly, it allows full control without direct contact, a critical factor when dealing with wildlife near homes. The herd pauses at the edge between forest and living space. They test the ground, root around, circle cautiously. A few individuals hang back, watching, reading the situation. This is the most dangerous moment. One wrong decision here, and the herd scatters, learns, and avoids traps forever. Then, one decision, timed perfectly. The gate drops cleanly. The herd is contained in a controlled space, fully separated from the neighborhood. No injuries, no noise. No one in the area even wakes up. A secondary camera deeper in the forest keeps rolling. Another group from the same herd changes direction. No panic, no chaos. They simply circle wider, searching for a new way in. That's textbook behavior when a familiar route is blocked. Instead of escalating force, a second trap is placed deeper, quieter, less obvious. The goal isn't speed, it's closing off re-entry completely and keeping the area stable in the nights ahead. What made that night special wasn't how many boars were controlled, it was when the decision was made. 30 seconds earlier, the herd could have split and spread. A few minutes later, fences, gardens, and living space might have taken real damage. Technology helps, a lot, but it can't replace human judgment or patience. The result came from preparation done long before, and a calm decision made at exactly the right moment.
We got Leafy Leaper over. Get your girlfriend. People want a copy. But there they all are.
By morning, the garden is untouched. Proof that modern wildlife control is no longer about confrontation. It's about being proactive, safe, and responsible. This is what it looks like when humans manage conflict with intelligence and patience instead of panic. Situations like this will only become more common as the line between people and nature continues to shrink. In the next episode, we'll keep following how residential areas take control before conflict begins. Like, share, and subscribe to stay with us. When wild boars begin to destroy, warning signs and how to trap them immediately. No one expects that after just one night, the whole field would turn into a wasteland, torn apart and devastated. Newly rooted crops are overturned, mud splattered everywhere, and fences are bent as if they've just taken a brutal hit. This is a clear sign that the wild boars have returned in packs and are expanding their territory. When the damage exceeds the ability of farmers to repair it, the issue no longer becomes about temporary scares. It's about making the right decision from the very first sign. And that's when our team quickly deployed the wild boar control plan. Through team discussions and planning, we realized that in order to solve the problem at its root, we needed to understand the creatures we were dealing with. Drawing from our experience in controlling wild boars in the US, where the species is considered an invasive threat causing severe damage, one principle is always at the forefront. Never go against the natural structure and behavior of the herd. Wild boars feel safest when moving in groups. They avoid anything that could separate the herd or force them into making sudden, stressful decisions. If one individual encounters danger, the entire herd will remember the area and change their route in subsequent visits. For this reason, small, disjointed measures often fail to resolve the issue and can make future control efforts even harder. Trap number 6 was selected due to its open space, curved structure that surrounds the herd's familiar route, allowing them to enter without feeling cornered. Rather than applying pressure, this trap serves as a tool to gently guide their behavior, leading them into a controlled area in the most natural way possible. Trap number 6 wasn't chosen for its strength, but for its ability to intervene early, before the herd can adjust its behavior. This is a long-term control strategy that minimizes the risk of the wild boars learning to avoid traps and returning with even greater destructive force. The trap is set along a predetermined path to minimize changes to the surrounding environment. The trap frames are securely fixed and camouflaged to blend in with the natural surroundings, preventing any foreign elements that might alert the herd. The bait is arranged in layers, not to lure, but to create a familiar and safe atmosphere. The entire process is focused on stability, as even a single hasty action could cause the herd to change its behavior. Wild boars are highly cautious. In the first few nights, the herd only approaches and then retreats. This is their natural risk assessment process. Without any signs of force or pressure, the boars gradually move deeper into the trap area, following their usual routine. Only when the entire herd is inside in its natural state is the intervention triggered. The trap mechanism activates smoothly, safely controlling the entire herd without causing chaos or posing any danger to humans or the surrounding area. Controlling a herd doesn't mean the risk is eliminated. Other herds will continue to scout the area from different directions. However, with the traps already set up and working in sync, subsequent interventions become more proactive and effective. Over time, the area begins to form a risk awareness for the wild boars. They no longer see it as a safe zone to return to, which significantly reduces the likelihood of repeated destruction. Wild boar control is not a hasty action, but a process that requires observation, understanding of behavior, and making the right decision at the right time. Trap number 6 isn't just a tool, it's a testament to responsible management, balancing production, community safety, and the ecosystem. In this silent confrontation, success doesn't come from rushing. It comes from patience, knowledge, and the ability to guide behavior rather than facing it head-on. In wild boar management, true victory doesn't lie in how many boars you catch, but in preventing damage from happening in the first place. In just one night, an entire season's worth of work can vanish. Not because of weather, not because of pests, but because a sounder of wild hogs has decided this land is worth coming back to every single night. For a small farm, a season's harvest can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what's lost isn't just crops, it's the rhythm of a family's life. Once hogs mark a place as a safe food source, the question is no longer if damage will happen, but who takes back control first. Stick with us, we'll show you how that answer unfolds. It starts small, a few patches of torn up soil, broken rows, flattened plants. Then, the tracks show up, same time, every night. Wild hogs don't move randomly. They return along familiar routes, stop at a distance, observe, and only move in once the area feels safe. If action isn't taken early, recovery costs will always exceed the cost of initial control, and the longer it goes on, the smarter the sounder gets. Instead of going all in from the start, the first move is strategic, setting up a small drop trap to study behavior. Wild hogs are highly cautious. This phase isn't about catching as many as possible. It's about reading the rhythm. Which hog enters first? Which hangs back? How long before the group reacts? Hit it wrong once, and you don't just lose a night. You lose the next opportunity. In wildlife control, understanding behavior is always worth more than rushing into action. Once herd behavior becomes clear, leaving the same setup too long allows the trap to be recognized, so the strategy evolves. The drop height is increased, the trigger time is shortened, the herd's reaction window is cut to a minimum. An elevated drop trap doesn't need to be more complicated, it just needs to be precise at the moment that matters. In areas where this method is applied, results are usually immediate. The herd has less time to scatter. Group instinct works against them. Multiple animals are held at once, and damage is stopped right at the hotspot. This is what happens when the timing and the method are right.
That's a big hole right there.
And that would be the boar. Oh shit, grab the gun.
After successful captures, the trap continues to evolve. A cleaner release mechanism, a stronger frame without increasing cost, bait placement adjusted using real data. The goal isn't the biggest trap, It's the trap that fits the farm's exact conditions. Effective control doesn't come from scale. It comes from understanding the problem and refining the smallest details. By cutting off the sounder in time, damage was reduced to a manageable level, and this land is no longer a nightly destination. More importantly, the farmer took back control through observation, discipline, and choosing the right moment. Don't chase the herd, lock down their route, and strike on the right beat. If you've dealt with wild hog damage, share your situation in the comments so others can learn from your experience. This content is for situational context and safety lessons only. It does not replace local guidance. Always follow local laws and work with experienced professionals.